Want a quick 10-minute wrap-up of the week's compliance news? Well, this is the podcast for you, 10 for 10, where Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, wraps up 10 top compliance stories which occurred over the past week. If you don't know, Tom has a daily news podcast, appropriately called the Daily Compliance News, and 10 for 10 wraps up the week. So get up on a Saturday morning, have a great cup of coffee, and check out 10 for 10, the podcast which gives you the week's top compliance news. Are you interested in upping your game in compliance through the use of AI and machine learning technology? Well, check out my latest book, Upping Your Game, How Compliance and Risk Management Move to 2030 and Beyond. You can check it out in the show notes. I've got a link to the purchase at Amazon.com. Upping Your Game. 10 for 10 for the week ending May 3, 2025. In my first story, I wanted to talk about Compliance Week 2025, which concluded on April 30th. It was the 20th annual Compliance Week conference. We were back at the Mayflower Hotel, which is always a fan favorite. And there was a keynote by Kenneth Polite, which talked about the importance of compliance. Multiple panels talking about AI and compliance. Whistleblowers was a big topic this year. Mary Inman, Jane Norberg, and others talked about whistleblowing both at the state and federal level and what it may mean going forward. For me, the personal highlights were the awards given to Ellen Hunt for Lifetime Achievement Compliance Award. I can't think of anyone more well-deserving than Ellen Hunt for what she has meant to the compliance community literally over the past 20 years. The second award was for Mentor of the Year, and that was given to Lisa Fine. Lisa and her former partner, Mary Shirley, both co-founded Great Women in Compliance, and that podcast led to the creation of a compliance community for great women in compliance. It led to both Lisa and Mary writing books, Sending the Elevator Back Down, and Lisa is one of the true superstars in compliance and both in mentorship and literally changing the world for better with her podcast, Great Women in Compliance, co-founded with Mary Shirley. So shout out to Ellen Hunt and shout out to Lisa Fine. Our next story comes to us from the HuffPost, which reported that on the 100th day of Trump's inaugural or anniversary of his second presidency, Elizabeth Holmes released information on 100 instances of corruption by Donald Trump. He called her out for turning the White House into a Tesla dealership, paying for the White House egg roll via corporate sponsors who have business with the government, punishing former U.S. officials who called out his lies about the 2020 election, helping his son set up a club where people can pay $500,000 access to Trump cabinet members, hosting million-dollar dinners between Big Pharma and their regulators, launching a crypto meme coin right before the inauguration to make millions, and then having an intimate dinner with whoever spent the most on his meme coin. This is but one example, or indeed 100 examples of the corruption of the Trump administration. Next up from Reuters, the House of Representatives is proposing that the Federal Trade Commission be stripped of its antitrust work and sent to the Department of Justice. This is obviously a true magna goal, but it's also inane because the FTC does civil enforcement, the DOJ does criminal enforcement, but the FTC also does regulation, and the DOJ is not set up to do regulation. More inanity from our Congress. Next up, from the Serious Fraud Office, it released guidance on corporate cooperation and enforcement relating to corporate criminal offending. In other words, how to self-report, when to self-report, how to cooperate, and how to put yourself in a position to get a DPA under UK Bribery Act. Next up, one of the most bizarre stories that I've seen in some time, and one if I told you, would say you made that up, but a man posing as a chief compliance officer of Manhattan's Dominion Bank and Trust helped rip off would-be customers as a part of a $4 million fraud scheme. A gentleman named Gerald Shaw and others falsely represented the bank would obtain financing or credit for victims in exchange for large upfront payments. So we have seen CCOs prosecuted, but we've never seen fraudulent CCOs prosecuted. But now that's happened. So as I said, truth is a lot stranger than fiction. Next up from Reuters, some good news for Wells Fargo, as the company reported that the bank has addressed many of its longstanding regulatory consent orders that have kept it under strict oversight from regulators. This past week, the lender cleared its sixth consent order of 2025 and the 12th since 2019. There are two left, but it really speaks to the commitment of Wells Fargo to doing business ethically and in compliance. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, reports that Huawei has banned lobbyists from vouching for Huawei amid a corruption probe. The EU banned officials from meeting with lobbyists acting on behalf of the Chinese tech group. Huawei lobbyists are being iced out of talks with EU officials after Belgian authorities began investigating the company. And the EU banned Huawei staff from its premises. So stern stuff from the EU. Next up, in a somewhat bittersweet or humorous, or I don't know if it's I told you so or what, but the Daily Beast reports that George Santos, yes, former U.S. House Representative George Santos and Magna Congressman, sobbed at his sentencing as he told the New York Times he hoped for mercy in his case, but he didn't. He got 7 years from the judge who dressed Santos down for his lies as she handed down his sentence. She said, "Mr. Santos, words have consequences. You got elected with your words," which, of course, were all lies. No word on whether Santos will seek a pardon, although he claimed he would not. Nevertheless, pardons are for sale under the Trump administration, so not be surprising at all for him to do so. Next up, from the Chicago Sun-Times, it asks, can the federal government ever get a corruption conviction in Chicago? The headline reads, Fed's weak swing in Jones bribery trial, part of a troubling trend. And they say the top brass in the Chicago or Illinois U.S. Attorney's Office needs to figure out why they have such a miserably low initial conviction rate. Former state senator Emil Jones III, a Democrat from Chicago, has a federal jury deadlocked on 3 corruption charges, and the judge declared a mistrial. So the AUSAs in Chicago or the Northern District of Illinois really need to take a deep look into this. Next up, from the Scottish Financial News, a first-time contributor, it reports that the SFO plans to explore whistleblower rewards and its fraud crackdown. This was actually a big part of the topics around whistleblowers at Compliance Week 2025, and it reports that the SFO is moving towards embracing whistleblowers as a key component of their enforcement of UK laws relating to corruption, fraud, and bribery. Interestingly, the UK Tax Office, His Majesty's Tax Service, has a very successful whistleblower program, proving that whistleblowers can report in the United Kingdom and they can receive compensation. So it's moving away from the UK model where there was no rewards for whistleblower, only a pat on the back and the job well done. I hope you will check in with the Compliance Podcast Network tomorrow on our Sunday book review, as it's May 4th. May the 4th be with you. I'm going to take a look at 4 books on Star Wars. It's a lot of fun, and if you're a Star Wars fan, you'll enjoy it. This is Tom Fox again. 10 for 10 is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. I'd also urge you to check out the Daily Compliance News, which posts every week from Monday to Friday, where I give 4 curated stories of bribery, corruption, and compliance events that will allow you to help you start your day as well. So check out the Daily Compliance News and subscribe or rate and review to both 10 for 10 and the Daily Compliance News. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of 10 for 10. I hope you'll check out the newest podcast in the Compliance Podcast Network, the Compliance Tip of the Day. In Compliance Tip of the Day, I give a 5 to 8 minute summary of one tip that you can integrate into your compliance program or put together for greater compliance program efficiency. Finally, if you're a Sherlock Holmes fan, I am preparing a new season of Adventures in Compliance where I go through the 4 novels of Sherlock Holmes. Hear it on the Compliance Podcast Network.